Hi, everybody. DJ Yoakley with you for another East Palestine Coach's Corner with Will Franklin, brought to you by Gorby's. And, Coach, when you look at, since the last time we talked, another roller coaster ride for you, but a couple big wins, signature wins for you, and a couple that you'd like to have another shot at. Talk to me about that week of Columbiana, Lisbon, a tough week, but you were able to bounce back. I mean, when you look at those games on the schedule before this thing starts, you go, man, that is a humongous week for East Palestine girls basketball. What was that like for you?
We had a lot of momentum riding into that game, and we watched Columbiana a couple times and playing there. It's one of those games where they got it up to like a 10, 12-point lead. Then we kind of closed it down to 3. I think it was 33-30 with about 3 minutes left. And I was like, we just need to hit one shot, and we're right in this thing. And we couldn't capitalize on it. And so, hopefully we learned from those mistakes. We knew we had Lisbon coming up in 2 days, another tough matchup for us and a lot of other people. And, we were right with those guys. I think we were up 1.5, and then the third quarter, things got away from us. We closed it back down to the fourth, and we just ran out of time. And then I think we traveled to Liverpool on that Saturday and, had a good lead at halftime. And then, we just squandered out, went away in the second half, ended up losing a heartbreaker by 2 points at Liverpool. And then it was kind of like all right, we got Lito New coming up. We got 4 or 5 days to prepare, so we need this one. Get us back on track. And the girls came out with a different attitude for that game. They got after it. They put on their wrist, motto all 4, because we haven't played 4 quarters lately. And then, they finally did, and they got to show what they can do, and they played 4 quarters.
And that's, when Kenzie came up, she was player of the game against Lito New, she said, hey, we got to play all 4 quarters. That was something that was echoed by each and every one of the girls. And it was cool because Bailey Davis was the one that kind of came up with the idea as a senior to put this on their wrist. When you look at that from a coach's standpoint, is that something where you are just absolutely proud, like almost like a father situation where your kid comes through all these things that you've been talking about for so long and they do it on their own? What was that like for you internally?
Well, I think as a coach, that means a lot more because it didn't come from me. Mm-hmm. You always talk about, hey, we got to come out and play 4 quarters, things like that. But they took it upon themselves, and whatever discussion they had in the locker room, whatever, Bailey kind of initiated that, and she's like, let's put all 4 on our wrists. And they owned it. So, like you said, that's a proud moment as a coach because, we can put up all that, billboard material we want, everything's on the chalkboard, rah, but if they're not buying into it, it doesn't matter. For them to come up with that on their own, I thought was awesome. And, it was just great to see them actually, use it on the court as well. Every break we got, that's what it was. So it was great to see it carry over into a game.
You go into that stretch of 3 losses in a row, never easy for a player, a coach, a fan, a parent. It's easy to throw in the towel after those 3 games. Mm-hmm. How, from your standpoint, the pride that you had in that Lito New game, I have a kind of bird's eye view of it, and then you come out of the locker room after that game, and you're like, needed that one. From your standpoint, is that an exhale, or is it kind of a rejuvenation? Because there's still a lot of basketball left to be played.
I think it's more of a rejuvenation. Number one, getting wins helps a lot of things, gets you back on track, gets the mindset where it needs to be. And, they worked hard for those practices leading up to that game. And so getting that win was huge. And the way we won, it was never – I never felt like we were in danger.
Right.
Okay, we took care of the ball right in the first quarter. Second quarter, I think we were even, 13 apiece, but it was our hard work. And they had to work for their buckets.
Yep.
And then we came out in the third quarter, we just rolled. And that's something that we haven't done all year. So to me, it's a rejuvenation. Seeing the girls jumping around excited, having a good time on the bench, the bench players up and yelling and screaming, so that was really like a spark to get us going where we need to go to close out the rest of this regular season because, like you said, it doesn't get easier from here on out. Actually, for us, it gets a little harder.
Right.
This week we traveled to Southern, so we're on the road, and then we're off Monday, or we're off, then we come back Monday for Wellsville, and then we run back into our gauntlet with we have 4 games in like 6 days. We play Columbiana, then we play Southern again, then Lisbon, and then I think at Heartland. So it's a lot of games in a short amount of time, and trying to prepare for each one and just dealing with the emotions. 3 big ones, and everyone's back of their mind is still, hey, there's that Columbiana game at home, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about that one, just because we were so close last time. And statistically that game we were tight,
Yep.
and it was just a couple buckets either way. It's a different ball game. So and the kids know that, and but as a coach, hopefully we got to keep them focused on one game at a time.
And that's the toughest thing to do. Coaches talk about it all the time. They always say, yeah, we're just focused on the next one. But nobody ever talks about how difficult it is to just focus on the next one, because especially from your standpoint, you talk about that gauntlet. That
Yeah.
Southern game was a rescheduled game from the beginning of the year.
Yes.
That now puts it
Right in
dead
the middle.
between,
Two big ones.
And you look at it and you go, okay, from a coach's perspective, you hear about trap games.
Yep, that's a trap game.
It's a trap game for sure. And when you look at it, I'm sure you saw it way before anybody else when
Yep.
that game got put in that slot, and you go, oh man, oh
Yeah.
that's tough. So when we talk about 3 tough games, it's really 4. Not to take anything away from Southern, but the way it draws up, there's a lot of emotion the night before, or 2 nights before,
Yeah.
and then you get Southern, and then the next night you get Lisbon.
Lisbon, yeah.
At Lisbon.
At Lisbon. So, yeah, it is tough because number one is, like you said, we got to focus on one game at a time.
Right.
And, they're high school kids, trying to keep them focused on one game at a time. It's tough. There's a lot of other things going on, and, it is what it is. So you just got to take it one step at a time. But, yeah, when we get to that week, Monday against Columbia, that's a big one. We'll have a big crowd, and, that's just a fun atmosphere for that game. And it's going to be physical. It's going to be fast,
Always.
up and down the court. We match up well with those guys. We're finally kind of getting to that point where we match up better with those guys, and they push pace like crazy, and then they can slow it down and just they're methodical. But at the same time, that's a physical game because we play 5-6 girls, and they don't play many either. They play maybe 6 or 7. So when you're playing that fast-paced game, that's tough on their bodies. So then you come in Tuesday, and fix what you need to fix from Monday, and also prepare for a Wednesday. But at the same time, now you're looking at, we got a big win at Lisbon Thursday, and they're a whole different matchup than what you played Monday and Wednesday.
Yep.
So it's just trying to shift gears and change your game plan and make those adjustments with one practice.
That's
That's what's hard.
Yeah, and I think from my standpoint, from an announcer standpoint, you look at kind of the matchups the way they are. Yes. Do we always present problems for Columbiana for matchups? Yes, because we're similar in size and
Yes.
speed and shooting ability on some days.
Yeah,
but,
some days, yeah.
But you look at, you take that's a trace or a track meet.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to Southern, very similar as well. And then it keeps getting more physical and more physical as you go.
Yeah.
But the problem is the endurance, keeping that intensity by the end of the week. You've got Lisbon waiting there for you, and that is a game that has become a huge rivalry game for East Palestine Lisbon. I don't care who you are. You're always going to have Columbiana Lisbon, Columbiana East Palestine. But this has turned into like a 3-way rivalry that Lisbon always wants a piece of us, and we always want a piece of them.
Yeah, it's nice to have those rivalries now. When I first took over, we didn't have many of those. Obviously now you play a lot better. You get a couple wins against these guys, get a couple close games, and that makes it a lot more fun for everybody, for the fans, for the high school athletes, and us as coaches. It's a lot more interesting. But yeah, we want to get those guys, and they want to get us just the same, and that's great to see. And like you said, that game is a different one. It's physical. They got 2 players over there that they make you play every single second. You got to know where they're at on the floor all the time, and sometimes even when you know where they're at, you just can't stop them sometimes. And that's the kind of players they are. So we just need to do a better job against those guys, kind of limiting the type of shots they get, and then we can't let their supporting cast get us like they did last time.
And this is the most interesting part of this entire team that you've talked about since the first time we sat down this year. There's no hiding what you have. You cannot hide and say, hey, we're hiding a 6th man or a 7th on the bench. Like, when they see tape, your opponents see tape on you, you get what you pay for. Right. So, but you've seen the awesome just kind of growth in some of these players, like Morgan Rutledge, hitting 16 the other day, becoming a big down low that people really start to write home about. How big has that been for you? And of course, you got the straw that stirs the drink in Jocelyn Fristic. You've got the, anytime she needs to step up, she does in Peyton Sherry. And you've got the other 2 that just kind of fill in the roles. You got Bailey Davis, you got Kenzie Johnston. Talk to me about what you've seen from the standpoint as a coach in their growth and how you've pushed them to maybe push past their limits and break through ceilings.
Yeah, I think, we could go through the roster and talk about each kid. They've all grown in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
They've had to take different roles, and obviously they've had to, really work and know multiple positions. Like you said, we play, 5, 6 kids, you need to know multiple areas. So, like Morgan stepped up pretty big for us. She had a rough little stretch there with our Columbia and Lisbon games. So, we really worked with her a lot on, building her confidence. A lot of these kids, and all high school kids, is their confidence.
Right.
When you're hard on them, you got to pick them up at the same time. So with her, it was, really wanting to kind of push her a little harder, make her understand that she can do more. She can bring more to the table. And, I think she scratched the surface a little bit against Litonia. Having that breakout game, a 16-point game for her, it was big. And what's it do for our team? It just opens things up for everybody else. Everyone knows Jocelyn Fristic. So now when Morgan can put in, that 12 to 16 to 18 range, that's huge for us. All that does is now it stretches the defense. Now Peyton Sherry can run in the lane, and she had a nice night.
Yep.
It was a nice balanced effort by all of our kids. Paige Snyder, she's in there. Now she's getting to be an athlete in the middle, getting putbacks, and she's reaping off the benefits of, a Peyton Sherry drive. They all come to her, and Peyton dishes to her for a wide open, layup. So to see each one of them kind of change their game a little bit, but still focus on their strengths has been great to see as a coach. And sometimes it's you kind of just get out of their way as a coach. You let them play through stuff, correct them what you need to correct them on, and let them kind of go with their strengths. And when they're struggling, talk to them about what they can do a little bit better. And it's a big thing about confidence with high school athletes. And I think they've all shown that confidence lately.
I think I didn't want to leave Paige Snyder out. I left her out on purpose during that question. You look at the way she's grown, because she was a wing last year. Now she moves to a post player. That's really, really difficult to do, especially,
Yeah.
I mean, she's not big. She's not your typical post player, but she moved there willingly to help the team. You're starting to see that all the way around. You're starting to see this team gel and become really, really close together. We talked to Jocelyn a little bit. They just like hanging out together during the summers.
Yeah.
They like hanging out in the parking lot, just talking about stuff, whatever it may be, boys, basketball,
hopefully
whatever.
just basketball.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
fingers
Keep it
crossed,
that
right?
way.
But reality is, you've had a front row seat for this entire thing. How have these young women kind of grown right before your eyes?
Well, it's nice to see, like, they do hang out with each other.
Yeah.
It's not like, we, as coaches, we have to, like, make them hang out. We're not like, hey, we're all going here for this and we're doing this. They do things on their own.
Right.
They have their group chats. They all meet up for breakfast. We don't go to those all the time with them. I think sometimes it's good to just have them together.
Right.
And, they hang out in school together. And, something that sounds silly that, I started making them do this year on game days is if you see someone in the hallway, you got to give them a high five.
Yep.
And people look at us funny, like, what are they doing? But I don't know. It's a little thing that they do, and they like it. Between quarters, everyone's got to give everyone a high five. Things like that. And I don't know. It's been nice to see them get together. And like you said, what Jocelyn was saying, they do hang out. Like in the summertime, they're here all the time. We did all the weightlifting stuff. They were here hanging out. And I'm sure after that, those guys all went to the pool together, possibly went to someone's house to hang out. And that's what ends up happening. It translates to the court. You hang around each other more. You get to know each other a little bit better. And good things happen for us. And it's nice that I didn't have to do much.
Right.
They just did it on their own, and that's what good teams do.
One of the things that people may not notice, or maybe they do, is the extra effort that you put in. I mean, you see the screen that you bring out for the girls for the hype video during the beginning. You let them kind of do their handshakes and set things up the way they want it. I tip my hat to you, because that's huge for them, because you're acknowledging what's important to them. They want that. And also, from my standpoint, I see the butts in the seats at these games. You're getting a good turnout from the community.
Yeah.
How important is it for you to have the community backing this team, win, lose, or draw?
Oh, that's, having that community support is great. Kids look in the stands, and they're like, wow, there's a lot of people here today.
Right.
So it kind of like, I don't know, it just brings a little more, they bring a little more energy, a little more focus, things like that. That's like, we got together, did that intro video.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome that you guys did for us, and the kids love it. And so, yeah, I'll spend my time. I'll put up, this big, huge projection screen, and, they like it. So, it's 2 minutes, and then gets those guys kind of fired up. And, yeah, it does. It puts butts in the seat. Everyone wants to see it. It's kind of a cool atmosphere, And, but, yeah, having that community support's great. I can remember last year when you guys kind of promoted
The whiteout.
The whiteout for, was it Columbiana?
I think so,
I
yeah.
think so. I've never seen in my short time here, and like I said, this is like my 7-year coaching, but I've never seen that many people at a girls basketball game in East Palestine. Okay, I could be wrong. I don't want to get anyone mad at me.
I'm
but,
with you, though.
That's the most I've ever seen. That was an intense environment. That was awesome. I think the kids love it. And it's good for both sides. Everyone thrives in that. And even this year, we played at Columbiana. I thought we had a real good crowd. And even when we played Lisbon. So, you talk about those rivalries coming back. It's starting to sprinkle into other sports. And, for us in girls basketball, it's great to see, that community turnout.
And kind of add on that question, is it surprising to you to see it happen more in girls sport? And not to take away from boys sports now, but you're starting to see a little bit of a revolution here where girls sports is starting to take over the main headlines, the main streams, and you're seeing sometimes, if not a lot of times, more people in the stands for girls sports than boys sports. Is that something that you've seen across the board? Or, talk to me about that.
I think a little bit of it is, when you're doing well, obviously you get more support.
Sure.
And I think these kids, the group that we have, they have a good following, and it kind of goes with like their demeanor.
Right.
They're real hardworking kids, and people want to see them.
Yep.
People want to see, the Fristics, Sherry, Riley's, and Snyder. They want to see all those guys. They know Kenzie Johnson's in the gym all the time. They want to see what she does on the court, and they're a fun group to watch.
Yep.
It's not boring basketball, I would say that. There's emotion on both sides, and the kids get after it, and, when the student section is there having a good time, it's just good high school sports, for small schools.
And I will say, because I don't think maybe they saw the documentary, The Level Up. They saw you in the background a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see you there on a big night for Kenzie. She was nominated. She was on the homecoming court. So you get out more than just to support them on the court. You support them in other facets. So, again, tip of the cap to you, Will. It's great to see what you do. Last question I have before we go. Has anything surprised you this year pleasantly about the group of girls that you have?
I think as a coach, and other coaches can probably attest to this, is when you can get through, we've got through a majority of our season now. And I'm going all the way back to summertime, because to me that's part of our season nowadays. We haven't had any, you get like these arguments with your kids. They start getting at each other, and we've had very minimal internal issues, I guess.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like what Jocelyn said with your guys' interview. They just like to hang out with each other. They like hanging out. They like being around each other, and that's the big thing. Because always during a season, it's a lot of work, a lot of time. You're around each other all the time. You're going to have those moments. Families fight all the time. This is our basketball family. Sometimes you have those. And for me, it's like, we haven't had to deal with that stuff. And we've had some rough moments, like last week, that roller coaster of us dropping those two big ones, and then that one in East Liverpool. That's a stressful situation for that locker room. And that's why I felt like we used the word rejuvenation for that Lito New Game, and that's a perfect word, because that got us right back to where we wanted to be, and that got everyone's heads back up, and hopefully we can just ride that out the rest of the season.
All right, I lied to you. One more question.
Okay.
I'd be remiss to miss this one. Jocelyn sat in here. She won the Big Dogs, Bear Brothers Big Dog of the Valley. She's done seemingly everything she's needed to do to get her name out there. She's been on the Miami Heat Twitter page with her off-season workouts. The young lady with a lot of character has already battled in her life through a lot of adversity, continues to do so. You're a huge advocate for her. Talk about her character both on the court and off the court.
Jocelyn, she's a great kid. You want your athletes and your daughters and your sons to be like her. She's the one, we did a lot, and like I've said this many times, we did a lot in the summer. And she was at every workout. Some days we would do 3 workouts. We'd have like an open gym in the morning, we'd have a lifting workout session, and then we'd have an afternoon open gym or a private session for, skills and drills. And there were some days she was there 3 times a day. So some weeks she's there, 12 to 15 times a week, and that's just with me. That's not including, in the afternoon with Coach Baird. That's not including sometimes she's just shooting in her driveway, or she's at the park, or she's in the gym shooting. So, the hard work, that's Jocelyn Fristic. You can't take that away from that kid. And at the same time, she's not, the word you used to me is humble.
Yeah.
She's not, she doesn't brag about it.
She doesn't like talking about herself.
No, she doesn't. She's a team first type kid, and I think that goes back to her work ethic and just the type of person she is. She cares about the wins, and she puts in that hard work, and that's why she's in the position she's in. and just seeing her grow, from, obviously as a freshman, she's definitely changed a whole lot to when I started her as a sophomore. First game we started her, and she was started the whole season. To see her kind of grow and blossom as a very good basketball player that teams got to worry about, it's amazing to see. And like you said, at the same time, if you talk to her, you wouldn't know any of that stuff, because she just, she comes in, works hard, and that's it. She goes about her business, and that's how she rolls.
She's a warrior on the court and a librarian off, just because she's so humble. She doesn't want to talk about herself. She wants to help others. So, Coach, thank you so much for the extra time today, and obviously good luck moving into this week. We'll talk about the next week, hopefully next week before it happens. And then, you guys got a nice little road ahead of you, and I think you've got some opportunity, and the girls have to see that as well. So hopefully you're able to cash in on some of these big games, and we'll talk about Columbiana and Lisbon when the time comes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.